Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com and on Amazon as well. And the third installment, Volume 3 of Raised by These Wolves, will hopefully be coming out mid-January. I have a brand new guest on. I have Latesha Howard on. She's a mom living in California. And she has had children taken by Children and Family Services, which is CPS in California, because she was advocating for special education for these children. However, the school staff were annoyed and they were calling Children Family Services as retaliation for this mom advocating for these kids. Now, she also has adopted her nieces and nephews and also has three kids of her own. So this case has been going on 3 years, and CPS has been delaying reunification even though mom has completed all the services, like always. I welcome you, Latesha Howard. Where are you at now in your case?
Well, right now, like you said, I've completed all the services and they're still trying to adopt the children based on the time frame. So they've been, delaying reunification. Um, and now it's like, okay, well, you're out of time. So I'm not sure how you run out of time once you've completed services, but that's what they're leaning on right now.
So they're pulling every trick in the book.
Correct. And the judge is allowing all these delays. I've filed motions, like we have a 388 motion that I filed in August of last year.
Mm.
Now the motion was supposed to have been heard in 30 days, but the judge delayed it. He set one hearing and he was like, I need more detail. And it's like, what more detail do you need other than the completed case plan? And, so he set the hearing for January, which is actually Thursday, this Thursday,
Mm.
even though that motion was supposed to be heard within 30 days.
Mm.
So again, the delays, they're just allowing these delays to occur. I've had horrible attorneys. I've spent about $100,000 in attorney's fees at this point for attorneys who've done nothing. They refuse to submit evidence, file motions, object to reports with false information, just all kind of things. And I filed motions to remove my attorney with evidence of ineffective counsel. The
Mm.
judge keeps denying the motions.
So who is this judge? Do you want to name him or no?
Judge Stephen Allen Mates, San Bernardino County Dependency Court.
Man, so many problems in that area. Well, there's problems everywhere.
Mhm.
But to
Yes.
not
Yes.
reunify these kids with you because they know you.
And they tried everything, like, from me filing complaints. They keep the children from me for about 4 or 5 months at a time, hoping that that breaks the bond. But it's unbreakable. They'll see me, they'll be excited. The oldest, he's being tossed in psych wards now because he keeps asking for me and it's causing behaviors. The
Man.
children have several, disabilities, which they've had assessments and they've been diagnosed. The school district has made complaints to CPS that I'm trying to force the school district to diagnose my children with disabilities, and they don't have them, and that I'm trying to get services, education services, to fund my lifestyle. That was a statement that was made from the school district staff to CPS or CFS. Yes.
Terrible.
There are no education services where the parent gets paid, but
Yeah.
she made that statement. It was just, just to make me look bad, to make it look like I'm fighting for these services for money for the children when there is no money. So, and I mean, the calls, like I have, my oldest child is 28. He's 28. My youngest is 17. I've never had any involvement with CPS with my children in the past.
Mhm.
I adopted my nieces and nephews who are autistic, speech delays, other kind of disabilities going on. So now I had them for about a year before the school started calling CPS. And in that year, I didn't know anything about special education. I didn't know anything about disabilities. So whatever the school district is telling me to do, I'm doing. But at the same time, we're having all of these behaviors from the children where they're running out of the classroom, they're attacking the teachers, and all kinds of things are happening. And the school district, they provided an assessment for the children for speech therapy.
Mhm.
Is that?
So then what happens is when you tick them off, then it's like a knee-jerk reaction with these schools to call CPS.
Yes. And initially, prior to COVID, we had a lot of services in home. Like we had speech therapy, occupational therapy, we had ABA, and we had wraparound. So these are all in-home, like in-home services. So when the school district would call, they would be able to speak with these other professionals who were like, okay, we're in the home all day. This stuff is not happening. Like, so the children were being forced to make up stories about abuse. And then they were like, that didn't happen. Like we're in the house all day. We were here. So after COVID, we lost. It's like San Bernardino County. It's like,
Oh.
excuse me, where we live in Hesperia, and it was a small area. So it's kind of hard to get services in that area. So after COVID, a lot of those services shut down and we lost those services. So now the school district is continuing to call CPS, but I no longer have those people to back me up and say those things are not happening.
Oh, no.
So the oldest child he was born with a lump in the back of his head. He has a funny shaped head. It looks like an egg in the back of his head.
Oh.
So we learned that the caseworker told him to say that I hit him in the back of his head. And the caseworker told him that he would take him to McDonald's and he would be able to visit his maternal grandmother if he lied and said I did that. So now they took the children based on this head injury, this quote unquote head injury, and they had him do a CT scan at the hospital. They took him to the hospital that night. He had a CT scan done. The CT scan came back normal. There was an assessment done by a nurse. They were saying they couldn't even tell what the origin of the bump was from. They were saying there was no pain, there was no swelling, which clearly stated that it wasn't an injury. So I had provided them a picture of his head at age 1, which I didn't get custody of him until he was 5.
Mhm.
So if his head was shaped like that at 1, I couldn't have done that.
Right.
So with that evidence and the CT scan, what they did was they continued to ask the courts for postponements for 15 months. And in that 15 months, they interviewed the kids 8 times. Now, the kids all have IEPs. In their IEPs, they have communication devices and all types of supports to help them communicate.
Mhm.
CFS did not use any of these supports for communication. It was just, again, they knew that there wasn't a head injury, but they needed something because it's like, oh my God, we've taken her kids and we weren't supposed to. So they kept interviewing them. And the oldest changed his story. And that's when he had told us, he said, he told the caseworker, actually, it's in one of the reports. He said, I think the social worker tricked me. And then she was like, well, how did he trick you? And then he said, well, he told me that if I said my auntie hit me in the back of my head, that I could go to McDonald's and I can go to my grandmother's house. And he was like, and he didn't take me to McDonald's. So we found out that that was a lie. But instead of them returning the kids, saying they made a mistake, they kept interviewing the kids until they got something. And then at the same time, we found out that the children were placed with their maternal grandmother, who actually was punishing them while in her care by hitting them in the head with paint sticks. When the kids were first taken from me, they slept in the CFS office for 3 nights. And while they were in the office, they were running out of the office. They were attacking the caseworkers. But again, they're autistic. There's no supports being supplied for their, for their disabilities. They just have them in this open space, and then so they're running out of the building and all kind of stuff. So then CPS, they're scared of the kids. Like I even got a call from a caseworker. They're like, what do we do? They're tearing up the building. What do we do? And so what they did was they gave the kids to their grandmother. Now the children were removed from their grandmother a year prior to them removing them from me because of her violent background. They did not do a home inspection for her, and they did not do a background check for her prior to placing them with her. They just wanted to get rid of them. So
Okay.
then we found out that she was hitting them in the head with paint sticks. And this was mentioned in a CFT meeting where no one knew that it was happening. The child just blurted it out. But after it was mentioned, they added those allegations to my case. Like I hit them in the head. It was like, oh, well, one of the children said you hit them in the head with paint sticks. And I'm like, no, I didn't. But they added those because, again,
Hmm.
they needed something at this point because it's like, okay, there was no head injury. We need something. So they just kept on changing the allegations. They went from I hit him in the head with a pink stick to I was only trying to advocate for special education services for money. Like every time we went to court, there was a different allegation, but nothing would stick. And they would just keep, adding stuff just to keep the case open. And that's how they've kept the case open this long, just with these false allegations. And my attorneys, again, they're not disputing any of these allegations, even if they have the evidence. They're not saying anything. They're just sitting there because they get more money from the case, being postponed because they're charging me hourly. So they're getting more money the longer they drag this case out. So instead of presenting all the evidence and saying, well, I have this, or even trying to get it dismissed, they want to keep it open.
This is terrible. And I know that I think, like on this podcast, these attorneys are famous for um, filing continuances and dragging out these cases.
Mhm,
And now, as you had said, they're trying to break the bond between them and you.
mhm.
And so, what is going to, they keep changing everything. All these allegations, it's a brand new one every time you walk in there.
Yeah. So as of as of September of 2024, I started paying for services because I had been contacting the social worker and I'm like, hey, I need a copy of the case plan. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Because, I was like, eventually, at some point, it was just like, you know what? They don't care that you're innocent. Just do what they ask you to do so that you can get the kids back. So that's what I did. So I'm asking for a copy of the referral, a copy of the case plan, and for her to send over the referrals for services. I have several emails over a span of like 3 months asking her for these, requesting these things. We even had a child family team meeting where it's like parents concerned is she doesn't know what to do to get the children back.
Mhm.
So it's all noted. And so I just started paying for the services myself. I didn't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, okay, you know what? Usually they ask you to do parenting classes, they ask you to do counseling sessions. Let me do that. So I signed up for parenting classes, counseling sessions. I finished those in April of last year, April of 2025. Now, prior to that, I filed a motion to have county council and the kids attorney sanction for misconduct because we're lying now. Like, so I filed a motion to have them sanctioned. So because I filed that motion to have them sanctioned, once I completed the case plan, county council was like, oh, well, we would like to request that the CFS be allowed to submit a new case plan because the current case plan lacks detail. Now, this case plan had been on record for 10 months prior to me completing it, 10 months, and nobody said anything about the validity of the case plan. So the courts give them 15 days. It takes them 7 weeks to get me a new case plan. So that's more time they're wasting.
Mhm.
So I get the case plan. I compare the old one to the new one. They're exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the caseworker's name. That's the only thing that's different. So I file a motion and I'm like, well, the case plans are the same. Like this was a delay tactic.
Mhm.
The judge dismisses the motion. He doesn't even want to hear it. Then the kid's attorney, she interviews the kids and she says, Your Honor, there's some concerns about safety during the visits. She said she spoke to one of the kids and the kids brought up a safety concern. Now, these visits are supervised at the time. They're 2 hours supervised at the CFS office. None of the visiting monitors said anything about any safety concerns. It was something that either the caregiver or the attorney coached the kids to say. And what they didn't know is I recorded every single one of those visits just for my safety because this entire
Mhm.
time, this case has been built based on lies. So I'm like, I don't even trust you guys. I don't want to take a phone call without recording. I don't want to sit in the same room with you guys without recording because it's always something that I didn't say or that I didn't do. So now I need to protect myself. So all of the visits are recorded. So it's like, if you guys are saying that there was a safety concern, it wasn't reported by CFS, and I have these recorded, but the judge he's still siding with CFS. So because of that, they didn't place the children back with me in April, even though the services were completed. So then fast forward, they're still wasting time. I filed a motion to have the judge reconsider his decision. I submitted all my certificates. I submitted the letter from my counselor saying I completed sessions and what we had worked on. All of this, I'm just giving them exactly what they've asked for.
Yeah.
Motion denied. They're still not willing to reunify. So then I do the 388 motion. And I'm like, okay, well, because at the time they had, so another thing that they had did was the school district, again, they orchestrated this removal. They wanted my education rights gone. They could not stand me. Like I was the parent that they hated. My
Mhm.
kids had everything. They had individualized transportation where they would ride a van just by themselves. They had communication devices. My children's education was costing the school district a lot of money and they didn't like it. So
Oh.
when they took the kids from me, they took away their communication devices. They told the middle child she didn't need it anymore because she could talk. And I'm telling the caseworker, I'm like, that's not how that works. Like we have to have IEP meetings, we have to have assessments done. Like there has to be a whole team that decides she doesn't need this device anymore. The school can't just decide on their own, but they did because now the children are not in my care and they're taking advantage of that fact. So
Mm.
they changed their transportation. They put them on the bus with school with they put them on a school bus with other children. All kind of things were just taken away right after they took them from me. So then now I guess the school district thought that because the kids weren't in my care, that I had no say so. They didn't realize that I still held education rights. So I filed a complaint with the Department of Education. And once the results from that came in, it made the school district angry. So then they started harassing the social worker saying, we need you to take mom's education rights. There's even notes in the caseworkers, the social workers' notes. It says, we need you to attend an IEP meeting to control the parent. If we say anything to her, she'll sue us again. That's what it says. Yeah. So
Oh.
like they were angry. So then they harassed the social workers until they removed my education rights. So they had some kind of secret hearing. My lawyer didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. They took away my education rights in August of 2024. Soon as now we had just had an IEP meeting in July of 2024. Soon as they took my education rights in August, they held another IEP meeting that week. And then they just started taking away services from the kids. So now their behaviors are increasing because they're not receiving the proper supports. And then a new social worker is assigned to the case. And the caseworker is getting complaints from the new school district because now the children are moved. So they're getting complaints from the new school district like, okay, this is not correct. We need services. We need this. But then the caregiver at the time wasn't very good at advocating for special education services, but that's what benefited, the school district. So the new caseworker gave me back my education rights in April of this year. And then like it was just me starting all over from scratch again. I actually, because it was like so overwhelming, I had to hire an advocate and an attorney because I'm like, initially I did this, one child at a time,
Uh-huh.
but now it just had piled up on me because I had to do 3 kids at one time. And it's like education service, like everybody needs this, everybody needs this. Like the children are running out of the classroom, they're attacking the teacher, they're biting, and it was a lot going on. So I hired an advocate and an attorney, and then they helped, you know, um, restore the services that were taken. So we've gotten the education piece all together at this point, but it's a struggle because I'm just redoing what they've undone, and then they're
Mhm.
still trying to act like my relationship with the children is detrimental to their well-being. That's actually in one of their reports.
That is
So what they're
twisted.
trying to Right. So what they're trying to say right now is, so they gave me unsupervised visits on Saturdays and Sundays in August. So I had maybe about 6 or 7 visits during that time. And then one of the group home staff or the oldest child said that I was coaching the child to act out at the group home. And I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? So that's what they were hanging on. So their last report um, says that the relationship with the parent and the children is detrimental to their well-being because she's coaching them to act out. They said that I told them that if they act out, they could come home faster. That's what is being said. So we have that, and then my girls were changed. They were switched from one caregiver to another caregiver in July. They were giving one grocery bag of clothes, just one. So when I was picking them up from visits, they didn't have on socks. They were saying they didn't have underwear. They were saying they were cold in the classroom. They didn't have jackets. So I took them shopping,
Hmm.
and where the social worker knew that I took them shopping, all of those clothes went to the caregiver's house. None of them came home with me. A month later, the caseworker wrote up a report stating that I bought all the clothes. I took the clothes home. I put them in a room. I told the kids that that's their room, and the clothes were purchased for them. So basically, they're saying that I'm giving the children false hope that they're coming home. And so I'm like, and I'm telling my lawyer, I'm like, but the caseworker was sitting right there when I took the kids to the mall. She asked me, she said, where are you guys going? And I said, oh, the previous caregiver didn't send them with any clothes. They need this, that, and this. And I'm going I'm taking them to the mall to buy these things. And she said, oh, that's nice. And that's all
Mm.
she said. She didn't tell me that that wasn't a good idea. She didn't say anything. But then she wrote something different in the report, like I'm trying to condition the children, making them think that they're coming home when I've done none of that. So that's all of what they're using right now, because again, the reality is they don't have any allegations. So they're just pulling things out of the air. It's just whatever they could come up with to
Hmm.
delay. And now those delays have turned into she's run out of time.
No one would believe this until they go through it themselves.
Correct.
So I always tell people, what happened to me and what's going on with you. You won't understand this until you go through it. And I hope no one goes through something like this.
Yeah, and the key to going through this is just knowing what your rights are. Like, I've never had to deal with CFS before, so I trusted the fact that I thought that if, I told them the truth, because I gave them all the information that they asked for. I gave them IEPs during their investigation. The original caseworker was like, oh, the parent is ignoring my phone call. So I gave them, 2 months of phone records, and I circled his number like, well, who am I talking to then? So I gave them all the evidence they needed. And then what they did was they took all the IEPs, all the behavioral assessments, and they used that stuff against me. It's like, oh, these children have disabilities. Let's use that to coach the children. They were supplying the kids with candy during the interviews. The kids were just telling us all of this stuff. They had candy, they were offered McDonald's, they were offered things that actually happened.
Right.
So we know that they're not, we know that they're telling the truth. So yeah, and I trusted, and had I known what I know today, my children wouldn't have been taken.
Oh,
So
what
it's
would you have
just,
changed?
well, I would have been able to advocate for myself. I would have been able to speak up. I would have actually fired my attorney. I'm thinking that I'm presenting the evidence and the attorneys are presenting it to the courts, but they're not. They're holding on to it. That picture of the child's head at age 1 never made it into court. So it was like she hit him in the head and she caused this injury, though The results from the CT scan never made it into court. And my attorney had all of that information. He just never presented it. And
I,
I've already filed my lawsuit. And it's funny because I received a letter from that attorney, and he's basically just like, threatening, like, well, I deny everything that you're saying. I didn't sabotage your case. I didn't do this, but I have evidence. So it doesn't matter what you say. And he's like, if you don't remove my name from the lawsuit, I'm going to file a motion to have you sanctioned. And okay, well, you're not scaring me because I have evidence that you sabotaged my case. And that's just the bottom line.
right.
So, but yeah, I got a letter from that attorney and I got a letter from the school district. The school district is trying to talk to me now. Like, no, it's too late to talk. Because then I told them once I filed my lawsuit, it's too late to talk. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I've been trying to talk to you guys for 3 years. I don't want to talk anymore.
Hmm. This is just terrible. I've
Yeah,
always
it,
said,
it, it is.
school districts are a really big problem.
Yes, they are, and they're able to use, they're able to retaliate in this manner, and that's very, very sad. It's like, you know what, we don't like this parent because she cares too much about her child's education. Let's call CPS on her, and then they keep doing it, and they keep. By the time the children were taken, they had called 30. They had called 30 times. 30 times, yes.
Ah,
I counted the calls because they gave me one report that had each call in it. And the calls were just ridiculous. One call was, oh, the parent refuses to sign an IEP. You guys are not telling them they can't call you because I refuse to sign an IEP. Like you're allowing them to just waste people's time for stuff like this.
mm,
So yeah, they were angry. And it's noted. It's noted in the social worker's notes where she's trying to fund her lifestyle. And I'm like, well, that's odd because I'm a real estate investor. So my lifestyle is pretty much funded, to be honest with you. I'm just asking you to do your job.
right. You know, with that phrase, the CPS caseworker over here in Pennsylvania, it's OCY, but she said in front of me and my counselor, she said, that woman lives better than I do. So, what is with, obviously, they're not getting paid enough, or are they? I hear they get bonuses. I don't know what is going on in there.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
they do prey on kids with disabilities because they can get more money when they adopt them out.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what they did to me because we lived in Oak Hills, which is like a nicer area of the high desert when my kids got taken. The initial social worker, he came into the home, he looked around the home, he went back to the office and he told his coworkers that I'm living good off the kids' money. So now I knew a caseworker in the office and she called me and she was like, he's up here telling people that you're living good off the kids' money. Now, had he asked what I had done, I would have told him, like, I'm a real estate investor. So all the work that had been done to the house, I had done because I do this for a living,
Hmm.
but he didn't ask. So but he was already biased from the beginning. Because his opinion was I was living good off the kids' money and he was going to take the children so that I wouldn't be living good.
That's terrible. Ugh,
Yeah.
shame on
Yeah.
him.
And I was like, before the children were placed with me, I had already had 4 houses. So I was like before even placing them with me, I was required to submit tax returns, car insurance, all kind of stuff to make sure that I could take care of them without their money. So I don't know how income became a factor when there was more than enough income for them to be placed with me.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this with them being placed with, whoever, isn't that person getting Title IV-E funding to have these kids?
Yeah, and that's what drives these people to assist in sabotaging reunification. So and it's just the money. They get a check and then it's like, oh, I need this money, and then they start assisting the social worker with sabotaging reunification, and it happens every single time. Everywhere my children have been placed, these caregivers have went to cooperative to not cooperating, at least like 2 months into the case. It's like, and it takes 45 days for them to process the payments. So that's when I'm like, okay, it's 2 months. They started getting the payments. Now they're switching, the last placement for the girls, it was like I was seeing them every single day when they were moved, like, and she wasn't having an issue with it. Then it was like, oh, well, I can only do weekends. Then she changed it from the weekends, so I can only do the days of the week. And then, and then it was issues. She started reporting to the caseworker that the children were misbehaving after they came home from visits with me. But at the same time, the caseworker is not talking to the children. So she's not understanding they're being coached to say that they want to live with the caregiver and stuff like this. And they're autistic. So they're misbehaving because they want to be somewhere and they can't be there. And at this point, they're blaming me for the behaviors. I'm like, you know what? That's odd because they were in foster care for I want to say for a year before being placed with me. And there's already records that they were placed in 7 homes in that year, 7 homes. Now that's before even being placed with me.
Wow.
So for them to sit here, 5, 6 years later and try to blame me for the behaviors is just crazy. Because the
Right.
reality is they just didn't provide the services. They didn't have the kids' assessments. When they first came to stay with me, they didn't have any assessments. It was just they were labeled as children with behaviors and they were just moving them around. But then as I'm seeing the behaviors, I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. Like, this is not just, them misbehaving. So then I started getting assessments done. At first, I started calling the caseworker. I'm like, I need help. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, they're digging in their nose. They're making themselves bleed. They're scratching themselves. They were peeling off toenails.
Oh.
And I've never seen this type of stuff before. Like, so I'm worried. I'm like, I need help. What do I do? And she's just ignoring me. So then I ended up actually losing my job because of their behaviors. I couldn't keep them in daycare. So once I lost my job, it was like, okay, this can't be it. So then I started taking classes and stuff. So I started taking like, IEP classes, special education classes, just all kind of different things to try to help me help them. So once I started learning, it was like, oh, so I don't have to go pick up the kids every day from school like you've been asking me to, because instead of giving them supports in their IEP, they would just call me, the school would call me and say, the child is having a bad day today. Could you please pick them up? And I would just pick them up. Like, okay, let me take off work. Let me go pick them up. But then when I learned I didn't have to, I was like, nope, I'm not picking them up. He's your problem. You figure it out.
Mhm.
So then now you're calling CPS on me because I won't pick him up. And you're saying that I'm neglecting him because I won't pick them up.
Oh,
So that's where the phone call started when I started refusing to pick them up from school.
this is a total retaliation, what just over, not picking them up for school because the school should have been doing their job in the
Exactly.
first place.
Exactly. So every single assessment that they have, every diagnosis they have, like the baby was diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
Hmm.
They didn't even know she had it. But I'm seeing her fall, like she would walk, not even 5 steps, and then she would fall. So you guys see this, but you don't care. So I'm like, okay, again, there's something wrong. I got to take her to the doctor. And she was diagnosed. So I'm getting all these diagnoses, but the baby is about 15 months. So she's gone, all of the children have gone all this time without diagnosis and supports, but I'm the bad person.
Oh. Now, you had mentioned you had an advocate and an attorney at that time. Was this like
Um,
an ADA advocate?
so not prior to them being removed, after they restored, they were in foster care when I had the ADA advocate and the lawyer. And after they restored my education rights, like that was really my only option because it was so much work to do. I had to go through IEPs and it was a lot of work. So I was like, I can't do this by myself because at the time I'm still fighting my case. So I'm filing motions and stuff for the dependency case. So I'm like, I can't do all of this. So yeah, I hired the attorney. And I think I want to say like June of 2025.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we were able to get all of their services restored. Like they had the middle child walking to school. And it's like, she has door-to-door transportation. Why is she walking to school? But I like, because she could have just wandered off. She could have, because
Right.
she elopes. And they were just allowing it. Didn't nobody care. And it was just happening.
I've noticed, and I'm sure you noticed this as well, is when they remove these kids from good families, they just toss them to the wind and ignore their issues.
Mhm. And that's what they expected me to do. And when I didn't do that, I became the problem. Like they're used to families getting these kids, taking their money, taking advantage of their money, and then just locking them in the room, handing them a tablet. Here
Mhm.
you are, go do whatever. Like, no, it's important for these children to have an education. They need that. And I know that I'm not, and that was my thing, it's like, I know that I'm not going to always be here.
Yeah.
And I know that they need help. So I was like, okay, let me make sure I at least try to get them that help. I applied for regional center. Regional center told me there was nothing wrong with them. I had to hire an attorney. This is my money I'm spending. There's no way you're going to tell me that they don't qualify. They even did an assessment, and in the assessment, like it's just false statements. It's like, oh, the child made good eye contact. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here watching him not make eye contact with the assessor. So I
Oh,
hired a lawyer for each one of them for the regional center, and they got the assessments done, and then they got their regional center approved. But I'm like, why do I have to go through all of that when they qualify? They clearly qualify. Like, why is it this fight for every single service?
mhm.
And it just is like, and the stress of the fight is actually taking a toll on my immune system. Like, I didn't have vitiligo before the children were placed with me.
Mhm.
Like, so all these spots and stuff, and the ones on my face, they started to come out after they were taken. Like, it was so much stress that
Oh,
it
wow.
actually ended up taking over maybe I say about 40% of my face. But then I
Oh,
started taking a medication and it started to reverse it. But then I stopped taking it and then it started to come back again. But yeah, the stress, that's how it's attacking my immune system. It's just causing, yeah. So
oh,
that's what's happening. Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm
I'm
like, it's
sorry.
really, really, yeah, it's really, really stressful because it's like I've never dealt with this, and
Mhm.
I trusted people. So I kind of fell into the situation because I trusted, attorneys to do their job.
Mhm.
I trusted the caseworkers to do their job, and they didn't. I trusted the judge to do his job. He didn't. And because no one did their job, I'm here three years later, and the
Yeah.
children are still not in my care. And right now, it's like, well, you've run out of time, so we're going to adopt your children based on you running out of time. And it's like, how do I run out of time on services that are already rendered? They're already completed. Like, how do I run out of
Yeah.
time? So, and that's where we are right now. So, and I have people like, well, maybe you shouldn't file the lawsuit because then they're going to retaliate against you.
They already
And I'm like, how
did.
much more they to my kids? How much retaliation can they do? It's like, are you kidding me right now? I was like, lawsuit is getting filed. I don't care. Like, you can't retaliate any more than what you've done to
Right.
me at this point.
Right. And I
So,
think, with that Title 4E funding, also Title 4B, because that's CPS,
mhm.
they're pulling in money because these kids are disabled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then there's the issue of the reasonable efforts. There weren't any reasonable efforts made prior to removal. They, were like, oh, she hit him in his head. She caused this lump. Let's remove them. They didn't offer me anything, but the judge's order says they offered me something, but it doesn't say what. It says reasonable services were provided. It doesn't even say what services were provided. And then as far as reunification services, haven't been given any reunification services. The caseworkers, they actually go the distance to block reunification services. They block visits. Whenever they're angry, it's like, okay, well, you're not going to visit the children. If the caregivers are angry, I don't see the kids. So we're not even receiving any of those reasonable efforts that they're supposed to provide in order for them to get the funding. So that's another, part of the case where you're committing fraud. You're saying we gave these services to this parent to reunify these children, and she didn't do them. But I have receipts that says I paid for the services that you didn't provide. You don't want to give me my children. So
Yeah. So then, okay, so this judge is just lollygagging, and you're surrounded by a bunch of liars.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
So the last hearing we had was in October, and we have another one on Thursday, on the 8th. So the last one in October, they had the report was like 40 pages long. And when they handed it to me, I was like, oh my God, it's about to be something.
oh,
I'm like, I just knew it was a book full of lies, and I'm opening it, and it's like she's telling the kids to act out. And I'm like, but if we have this history of behaviors, right? We got IEPs, we have assessments, we have all this stuff. How can they turn around and say, well, because she told the kids to act out, that's why they're doing this? Like, they've been doing this stuff for years, even before they were placed with me, but
mhm,
that's what they're using. And in family court, what I've noticed is you don't have to have evidence. You just have to say it. As long
right.
as they say it and the judge hears it, he's going to make a decision based on what's said. And he doesn't care if it doesn't have any evidence. Well, at least this judge, I've seen it. I'm looking like, and he does things like, don't shake your head at me. And I'm like, one time I just got so mad. I just got so mad because I'm like, you have to be kidding me, right? Because it's like they're just padding. Oh, she's doing this. But it's like, but I've been the only one trying to help, trying to make sure that they have the supports that they need to thrive. Why would I undo that? Why would I
Right.
try to undo that? Like, no one knows how hard this is, right? Advocating for one child, let alone three. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, you know what? I know I did a lot, but let me undo everything that I've done. Right? That makes no sense.
They just create more problems, and having these parents, as such as yourself, complete these tasks, and then they want everybody to just redo them again.
Yeah, and they ignore what's happened. So far, the oldest child had a busted eye where he had stitches.
Mm.
There's hospital records. They almost killed him from a drug overdose of medication that wasn't prescribed to him. I have the drug test from that. One of the group homes, or excuse me, one of the group homes he was in, he was being locked in the room. One of the foster homes he was in, he was being scolded with hot water. And what I learned is he was running away from the home because they were threatening to scold him with hot water. But when he would run away, he would end up in a psych ward. He's been in the psych ward 9 times in the last 2.5 years. But he hadn't been placed in a psych ward when he was with me. So they just keep on placing him in a psych ward. So I'm like, so then it sounds like he's being punished for his reaction to being abused. I'm like, if
Mhm.
I got that right, when I'm talking to the
Right.
caseworker, and they just ignore it. So I'm like, and we've had CFT meetings, and I've asked the social worker, I'm like, well, are you even communicating with him? Like, when he goes off to the psych ward, are you going there to visit him? She's like, no. So how do you know where these behaviors are stemming from if you're not even communicating with him?
Mm.
Like, the children's behaviors have become so extreme that the caseworkers are scared of the children. And I've made a note plenty of times. I'm like, even when you guys gave me unsupervised visits, when I was at supervised, like I've never had these behaviors. Like when they're with me, I don't have the behaviors. Like it's simple communication. They're like, oh, well, the children don't take the word no very well. I tell them no all the time.
Right.
You ask for something you can't have it. But I'm explaining to you why you can't have it, and I'm giving alternatives,
Right.
right? So it's not just like no. So obviously I'm doing something different than what the caregivers and what the caseworkers is doing because again, I haven't had any outbursts. They're like, they've said where he's had situations where he's broken glass and he's swallowed glass and he bangs his head, just all kind of different things. And the children, all of them elope. I haven't had any situations where they've eloped from me or they've run away.
Mhm.
So, and I've brought that up to the courts, and I'm like, well, and I'm the person that everyone calls to de-escalate the children. So whether it's the group home, whether it's at school, or whether it's at the caregiver's house, if the children are having a meltdown, I get a call. Hey, such and such wants to talk to you. Could you help them? You help to de-escalate them? Like they're always calling me, but my relationship with them is detrimental to their well-being. which is odd. So I'm really the only one that can calm them down. But yeah, it's really, really stressful. The oldest child, he said, I see, and I didn't know this, right? He was like, I see the caller ID and I see your name on the caller ID, and they tell me I can't pick up the phone. So they'll tell me when I call that he's busy or that he's gone or something like that. But he told us in a CFT meeting that he sees my name on the caller ID and they just simply tell him not to pick up the phone.
So,
So, in all of this stuff, it creates the behaviors that he's having in the group home, and they're blaming me, like, oh, well, it's the relationship. Oh, it's because this parent is doing this. But you're trying to alienate the parent, the
right.
person that they love the most. And
I
now they're
was
acting out because of it.
I was just gonna say that
Yeah.
that is their hyper focus with CPS is to drive a wedge between the parent
Mhm.
and the children and destroy the bond. That's all
Yes,
they
the
do.
group home. Yeah, in the group home, they tell the oldest, like he's told me, he was like, they told me that you don't love me, that you don't want to see me anymore. And I just felt so bad because I'm like, as an adult, like what makes you like, even if I didn't, right? Which I definitely love my children, but even if I
Mhm.
didn't, as an adult, what would make you say that to a child? Your parent doesn't love you. Your parent doesn't want to see you anymore. They don't care about you. What would make you say that to a child? I was like, these people, they need counseling. Like something is going on with you where you just would do something so evil to a child.
Well, they are child psychologically abusing them,
Hmm.
uh, and they probably should be behind bars, if you ask me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely coming after everyone. Like the lawsuit, like it's definitely going to include everyone, even the people that think they're just going to slide by because they have this very minimal, job title or position. Like, nope, coming for you
Yeah,
too. Everybody's going to get it. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I was like, and I'm not going to stop. I was like, I want jobs. I want pensions. Like, no, I don't want you guys to have anything after I'm done with you because you don't deserve to have your position when you do things like this.
Hmm. And this child psychological abuse, I'm sorry about that. It is V995.51. And I know people are trying to get parental alienation in the DSM-5, but I don't know when that will happen. But I don't know if that would help in your lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, but
Mhm.
they're committing child psychological abuse. It's in the DSM-5, V995.51. And
I
so
got it.
I think really with your lawsuit, they are in big trouble for a
Oh yeah.
plethora of reasons. But with the child psychological abuse, in fact, it was written in 2014. The APA wrote that child psychological abuse is worse than physical and SA combined.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a lot of that going around. The middle child, now every time I talk to her, out of the blue, she just mentioned, she's like, Auntie, I want to stay here. She's saying that she want to stay with the caregiver. And she said, I'll just visit you and maybe spend a night at your house for about 20 days. And I'm like, what? And then the social worker said the same thing. I was like, is there a reason why all of a sudden, Paris keeps saying that she wants to stay with the caregiver? And then the caseworker said the same thing. She was like, you know what? She was like, I noticed that recently. She said, she just blurts it out. She's just like, out of the blue, I want to stay here. Like, and no one's asking her. And she keeps saying it. Like, every time I talk to her, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. Like, somebody's making her say that.
Uh-huh.
And during one visit, her brother asked her, he was like, why would you want to stay there? And
Mhm.
then she's like, I don't know. And then she sat there and she thought about it for a minute because she was trying to remember what she was told. And it took her about 2 or 3 minutes. Then she was like, oh, yeah, I want to stay here with my cousins.
Right. They're implanting this false narrative, a shared persecutory delusion that
Hmm.
is this child psychological abuse in the
Right.
DSM-5.
And they're telling her that if she stays where she is, that she can come and spend a night with me. But the reality is I don't speak with that caregiver, so I'll never see her again if she was to stay there. But she doesn't think that. She thinks that she'll be able to come to my house and spend a night.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, and like I tell the caseworker, they're always trying to make it seem like I'm discussing the case with the children. Like the reality is, I don't have to cheat to win. Like
Mhm.
that's them, they're lying, they're doing all of this extra. I don't have to do any of that. The truth is just fine enough. The truth would have gotten this case dismissed. People actually doing their job would have gotten this case dismissed a long time ago.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I don't have to sit here and lie or coach the kids and cheat. Like, I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm not causing any emotional damage. Like the oldest child, he thinks all this is his fault. And
Mm.
I had to talk him down from that and, just trying to explain to him that, he was tricked. It's not his fault. So, but that's really the only conversation that I've had with him as far as this case goes, because he was crying, he was
Oh.
hysterical, and he was blaming himself. And he's only 11.
Oh.
So this shouldn't even be a thought in his head at
Right.
all. So, and I had to calm him down from that. But like I told the caseworker, like I don't have to lie, I don't have to cheat, I don't have to coach the kids, I don't have to do any of that.
Hmm. You have my blessing with your lawsuit.
Oh yeah, I'm working on it. Actually had a lawyer read it. He was like, "You did this?" He was like, "This is really good," because
Good.
I added RICO. Excuse me, I added the RICO Act to my lawsuit. I was like, everybody's like, "You can't do that." Yes, I can, and I am. So
Mhm.
so like they've all orchestrated this. It started with the school district. It went on to my attorneys, the caseworker, the judge. Like they're all working together, and everybody's getting money from this. How is it not? Like so. I added it and it's staying and I'm not removing it. And that's just that.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was like, yeah, they got the wrong person. Like I have nothing but time. Like I'm a real estate investor. Like, so I don't work. I was like, okay, so now I got time to do research and I got time to work on this case. So
Well, I
that's
mean,
pretty
I
much what I
think
do.
that's an inspiration to know that you're doing this and standing up to them.
Yeah. And I've been helping other parents as well. Like,
Hmm.
I was like, I was like, at the end of the day, even if I don't get mine's back, if I can help other parents get their kids back, then I'm fine with that. Like I'm okay with that. Because again, if I had the resources that I have today, my children would not have been taken. It's just that it went on so long, like, and I don't know why I trusted them for so long. Like I trusted them for at least about 2 years. It was like, okay, things are going to change. Okay, eventually somebody's going to come in here and and do the right thing. And I'm just thinking, and then it finally clicked. Like they're not doing anything. Like you need to get up and you need to move. So
Oh,
it took me a while. And then that's what kind of hurt my case. The fact that there was literally nothing said positive on my end for like 2 years.
it's unbelievable, but believable from all the
Right.
cases I have heard. I,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening to so many families, and it's just
Mhm.
and I'm just really, really thankful that this case has not put me in a financial situation where I'm just stuck and I can't do more, right? Because I've read where families where, parents have had to quit their jobs, and because they quit their jobs, they get evicted and all this, like it's a domino effect. And
Mhm.
I'm always praying and thankful that, I hadn't been put in that situation, because I see that it could be worse than what it is, and it's not.
Mhm. Just, and also speaking out helps warn other people and
Yes.
the progress that
Yes.
you're making. Just
Yeah.
these people, I just feel CPS should be dissolved. It really doesn't do
Oh yeah.
anything.
At all. At all. It's not even, yeah, it's no good for families, because instead of they're getting funding to provide resources to keep families together, but they're using that funding to keep families apart.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's because there's more incentives to keep the families apart than to keep them together. And these people, they just simply don't care about anyone else's family. Like I've watched what they've done to my children. Like, they had regular behaviors, like regular, children with autism. Maybe they were doing this, or they were, they couldn't handle, they were overstimulated.
Mhm.
So they're eloping or something like this. And it's gone to, excuse me, the point of visits to the mental ward. Like
Oh,
that is an extreme escalation. And
yes, it
then
is.
they just ignore it. Like, right? It's just like, oh. we're going to blame the parent because they can do that without document. It's like, well, and I asked my lawyer, I said, okay, well, this report looks like it's like, like medical diagnosis, and then it's like opinions. I was like, none of these people hold, any type of behavioral specialist background, psychologists, psychiatrists. Like these are caseworkers that are making these statements. I was like, this needs to be disputed. They can't do that. Like you can't come in here and be like, oh, well, this child is misbehaving because of this when there's documentation that says their behaviors are a manifestation of their disability.
Hmm.
So
And instead they're
it's
blaming you.
documented, right? And it's documented, but they're able to say otherwise because I didn't have the proper, representation.
That's so, so wrong. And they take advantage of people like that.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's like some type of auction, right? When the case first opens, like, okay, who's going to disappoint this parent the worst? Okay, I'm going to assign you to the case. Like,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like, so it's crazy.
It
And it's
is
like,
really.
and it's all of the attorneys are the same. I've had 7 attorneys on my case, and they've all done the same thing. Right now, I'm at the point where I just have court appointed. I was like, I'm not spending another dollar on this case because at least if you're not doing what I asked you to do,
Right.
I'm not spending any money. And the judge won't allow me to go pro se. He's like, nope. One time I tried to speak. I was like, well, he said, nope, he's like, case closed. Like real quick, he would not let me speak. He's not letting me say anything.
Oh, I think he broke something in the Constitution somewhere, you know.
Right, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, he will not let me say a word.
I'm sure if you file a complaint the right way, he could end up off the bench.
I've tried that. And I did one with the Judicial Commissioners Board. And they recently sent me a letter saying that there was no conduct. So I'm no misconduct. So I just sent another letter. I sent, and I sent it with transcripts, right? Because I'm like, okay, you're not going to tell me
Hmm.
that he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. So I just sent them, like I'd say about 60 pages of transcripts. So now you can read these transcripts and you can see exactly what he's been doing. So now tell me there's no misconduct. So I'm waiting for that response now.
Oh, you'll have to keep me posted.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I filed complaints with the bar. I filed pretty much complaints with everybody you could file. CDSS, they're like, oh, well, once the courts get involved,
Hmm.
uh, there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, we're talking about misconduct here. Like you oversee CFS. What are we talking about? And he just was really just like, I'm sorry about what's happening to you, but we can't do anything once the courts get involved. So yeah, and they don't care. It's
No.
really, really sad. It's like I'm telling you, my child almost died from a drug overdose of medication that was not prescribed to him. So and that's okay. So yeah, it's crazy. So I have the mountain of evidence and I'm not going away quietly.
Hmm.
So they will hear my name again, and that's just that. So whether they give them back or not, they will still hear my name. And they will still feel the effects of taking my children because I won't stop until they do.
I just think, you know, thank you for coming on the podcast and saying all of
You're
that because
welcome.
that will give other parents hope.
Yeah, and that's one of, the things for me, a lot of people they say, well, I don't want to say anything because I'll be retaliated against. But it's like they took your children. Like, how much worse can it get for you?
Right.
Like, they're doing this for money. The case stays open, the longer the case stays open, the more money they get. They're doing this for money. Like, so whether you say something or not, they're still going to get your children. They're still going to keep them for as long as they can if they don't keep them for forever. Like they're going to do exactly what they do, whether you speak out or not, because
Mm.
it's a business.
Oh, it sure is. It's a billion
So
dollar a year business.
yeah, so I always encourage parents to speak out. Like we had a board of supervisors meeting last month, and I had a couple of parents show up to the board of supervisors meeting. We spoke, and then we're going again. It's another one on the 13th of this month in San Bernardino, and we'll be there, and we'll keep on going, and I'll keep on posting it on Facebook and TikTok, and we'll keep on growing. until someone does something, and I'll keep
Okay.
on moving forward with it.
Well, I'm honored to have you on. And
Thank you.
if anyone has any questions, how can they contact you?
Email, it's LATHOW, the number two, at yahoo.com.
Okay, I totally appreciate you. Don't
Thank
jump off,
you.
okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Latesha Howard. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe and share. Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Latesha Howard. Thank you for speaking out and giving other parents the strength to do so.
Thank you.